The classics of the 50s, Basil Rathbone, there was a few of these, they were always playing pirates or dashing swordsmen of one sort or another. Okay. They were actually Olympic level fencers. And what would quite often happen is, because they worked with the same director, the director would just throw them swords, go, right, here's the sword scene, you're going to fight up the stairs, across there, down there, and they just, but because they were actual swordsmen, it would look fantastic. There's a wonderful scene where one of the actors almost punched the director in the face. His opponent is supposed to swing a sword at him. He ducks. What he doesn't know is that his opponent's got a sharp, and he's going to cut through some candles that are behind him. So they do the thing. He ducks. The swing goes through. He turns around and sees the candles are cut, and he goes storming across and picks the director up because his opponent had a sharp. If he'd been hit with it, because even with blunts, even with rehearsals, you do get knocked sometimes. And if you get hit with a sharp, especially if you're not, because you treat a sharp with a different level of respect, because you know it's a sharp weapon. And you'll do things with blunt swords, just bat them out of the way. If something's going wrong in a fight scene, you'll just bat it out of the way and go, let's restart. If you do that with a sharp, you'll lose a finger.
I'm Ryan, and I made a film called Every Legend Ends. Today I'm joined by Jack Butler, the film's fight choreographer. We'll be diving into how these fights aren't just performed on set, but carefully crafted in the edit to create the rhythm, intensity, and storytelling you see on screen. How much creative control did you have over this? And do fight choreographers have in general?
Very much depends on the director. I've worked with some directors who really just want me there almost as a consultant, just say, how does this look? How does this look? Is this okay? And then I've worked with some directors who literally want me to do the whole fight scene, controlling everything.
And the camera.
And the camera.
Wow.
I find most directors want kind of a halfway between. So I'll choreograph the fight, and then I'll walk the director through it. Here's this, here's this, here's this, and then we'll work usually together to figure out exactly where the camera's going to be. Much like we did in the rehearsal space.
Yes.
Where we'll have we'll see the fight, right, this is how we're going to shoot here, this is how we're going to shoot here, and then we move, because I remember we went through probably 30 or 40 times in that space, making sure we got the camera in exactly the right place, so that pulling back, moving in, so you can get the feel of the fight and show the whole fight. So what we did was, I had what I felt we needed to get certain angles. Like, for example, when Paul hits the ground for the first time there, the camera comes out far enough to show his whole body hitting the floor, and then comes back in to carry on with the fight. And you see, it comes out each time there's a strike or a movement, making sure we're getting the whole thing in shot on the screen.
In terms of the way that I did the edit in my head, like I had an idea of how I wanted it to look in the end, but that obviously it changes based on sort of what you say and how you say where the camera should be. Because I remember as well that you said that where the camera shouldn't be. You know what I mean? Because you'll have somebody, for instance, there's a bit near the end where he stabs the monster.
Yeah.
Which obviously you would have said, don't stand in front of him. You're thinking about the safety, so you're saying where can the camera not be as well as where it should be?
I remember that we're doing some takes and you wanted him stabbing towards the camera, and it was the end of a really long day. I ended up having to step in and move Ben physically out of the way because he was getting closer and closer to those stabs. So obviously the creative aspect is a big part of fight choreography, but once you've done the creative bit, once you're on set, safety has to be your number one, and that's like a big red flag if you're... Hello, film directors out there. If you're looking to hire a fight choreographer, if they're putting themselves in fights, especially group fights, that's the biggest, reddest, flappiest flag you can find.
Because they're just like role-playing as that person. They want to just
they're trying to be a fighter, they're trying to be in the scene, then at that point they're not the choreographer anymore, they're in the fight. Now if you're hiring a whole fight team, and they're used to working together in a fight, then that's a different thing. But if you've got a choreographer coming in and working with actors, and they're trying to put themselves into fights or write a character for themselves, and then that's not a good sign.
No. Yeah, and again, because of the nature of it being like CG, there's obviously certain shots you could do here that you couldn't, like that arm coming over. Maybe you couldn't have this kind of shot. Or this one, because the arm comes back, so there's a risk of like hitting the camera on the way out. Because obviously he falls over sort of to the side.
This is what I was talking about earlier with you need to have the whole shape in your head. So when I'm watching this fight, I'm thinking ahead of, right, he's going to land here, then he's going to land here, then he's going to land here. So we can't have the camera here, here, or here, because he'll land on them. And when you are shooting, it's very easy to get so involved in what you're seeing on the camera that you lose awareness of your surroundings.
Interesting. I mean, does it matter what the camera does, would you say? Not in terms of safety per se, because obviously you can just say don't go there, but do you think it really matters where it goes?
It's absolutely vital.
Yeah.
When you're choreographing the fight, then you know there are certain blows that are going to land, because you've got to block them, catch them, show someone being thumped in the stomach, whatever. You can shoot those from any angle. But there's also shots that have got to be cheated. Like if I was going to go and headbutt you, I'd aim to the side. Yeah. If the camera is off angle, it will very clearly show that I've missed that punch, that kick, that headbutt. You've got to make sure the camera is exactly the right angle to sell the punch, the kick, the stab, whatever it is. So while there are bits of the fight, like when he's being thrown around, we can shoot him hitting the floor from a dozen different angles. But we can't fake him being kicked from the wrong angle. It's very obvious that you've missed that kick.
I mean, the kick actually I think looks pretty good, considering that there's nobody there. This bit.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, but where the kick happens, it's on the edit. So that sort of plays into not just the camera angles, but the edit itself, where it feels a bit more punchy.
But again, because he performed that action a dozen times, and he'd done it with the actress there and without.
You know how it would...
He had that feeling in his body of how... And because he'd done the exact same landing, the same roll, the same movements, and it was repeatable, he could just bring that movement into it.
How do you choreograph fights so the audience doesn't get lost? Because obviously here we had a sort of an interplay between us trying to figure out the angles. But if you came on purely as, I just want you to do a fight and I'll do all the angles, do you choreograph it in a different way, knowing that the camera may be anywhere?
I always make people rehearse fights to the point where we all know where we are at all times.
Including the camera?
If possible. It's not always possible. No. You don't always have the time, you don't always have people willing to do it the way it should be done. But there's still, I mean, I choreographed a scene for some guys years ago now, and they screwed up the edit. So while the fight scene was good, they put the same bit in twice. So the middle of the fight happened twice. And there was no end, really. And because the edit was so bad, the fight looked, God, I haven't used that footage anywhere. Because the fight looks terrible. Even though it was a really well choreographed fight between a guy in full armour and a guy being called Robin Hood.
That's not a problem I would imagine encountering, where you have the actual edit is so wrong that you have the same thing happen twice. You can't even keep track of what's going on.
You can see amazing, I mean, if you look at the most recent Star Wars films, with Daisy Ridley in it, Daisy worked her ass off learning how to use a lightsaber and jump and spin. And then you watch the actual edited fight scenes, and they are dog. They're like something 12-year-olds put together on an afternoon.
I mean, a part of it might just be more, it's trying to get it more gritty and realistic, like a lot of things are now, versus, obviously you got the Star Wars prequels, which were, criticised at the time, but, the lightsaber duel with Darth Maul, very much the opposite in some ways.
It's very true to the universe, though. And this is what we're talking about earlier. You need universal consistency.
Right, What do people know? But is that consistent with Daisy Ridley, though? Because she's not necessarily
She's out of there's no continuity at all. Well, if you watch The Mandalorian, and this is an example because I spend a lot of time talking about physicality and movement, because that's a big part of a fight scene. It's how you carry yourself. You've got to have the intent to fight, or look like you have it. If you watch the first episodes of that, it's very clear he's only just been given his costume because he can't see properly through the helmet, and you can see he doesn't know where his own feet are. You can see him barely struggling to walk in his armour. And things like that just drive me mental, because there's no excuse for them. You need to be thinking ahead of these things, and you can't be going onto the day of a shoot going, oh, I haven't quite finished the choreography, oh, I haven't finished rehearsing, oh, he's only just got his helmet. You need to, he's supposed to live in that helmet 24 hours a day for decades, and suddenly he can't walk up steps because he doesn't know where his feet. That doesn't make sense. You lose that immersion.
Yeah, I mean, like with these couple of fights, with this, with Paul and then this swinging the sword at the end, we didn't spend as much time on that as we did with the proper one, with this, because there's more action obviously there, but in some ways that ties into the experience of the characters, because he's meant to be more experienced and she's meant to be less experienced.
Yeah.
So it sort of ties in with, because he's done more rehearsal time, he's going to look actually a lot more convincing than
Absolutely,
just swinging a sword.
And this is where people slip up. If you're an experienced fighter, it's really difficult to look inexperienced.
Yeah.
So she actually had an advantage in that she'd never held a sword before I showed her how to.
No.
So when she's swinging it like a fishwife batting at a fly.
Yeah. It looks
good.
convincing.
That's what she's supposed to be doing.
Yeah, you don't, it's like, method acting in fighting really, isn't it? Are there any tricks you'd use to make a fight look fluid? Bearing in mind especially you might not know how it's going to be edited.
There's a few that you can use because they're things people actually do in fights. Like, you've got to get someone a bit of breathing space.
Yeah.
Great. Punch his opponent in the nuts, because that causes a natural break.
Yeah.
There's still aggression, there's still tension, but this guy's been knocked to the floor as he's coming up.
Yeah.
Punch to the ghoulies. Now this guy's going to back off a bit because he's just had his things rattled. And your guy's got time to get up, and that gives you time to reposition the cameras, gives you time to bring it close up to the faces, but it's a natural break point in the fight. Same with a grapple. If you need to move people, then you just have one person grab the other and give them a shove. It's a normal part of a fight, a grab and a shove and a grab and a shove. You can move the fight to the next location where you want it. And then again, breaking that fight is as simple as a punch to the gut, a knee. There's little things you can do. So you can move fights to different locations, you can give the camera guy a chance, you can give the characters a chance to break apart. And it's all, God, if anyone ever actually went through the things I've watched on my computer, I've watched 100 hours of bar fights. Why have you watched 100 hours of bar fights, sir? For work?
Yeah. So in terms of choreographing, do you choreograph with an edit in mind, with where you think that the edits are going to happen? So like breaking the fights into beats so it cuts together in a way you have in your mind?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What I like to do, if we've got the budget for it, is a previs. So I'll get a couple of fighters I know who are local. We'll go through the choreography and I'll rough shoot it so that I've got something to send to the director who can look at it and go, okay, well, I like that shot, I don't like this, I do like this, I don't like that. And then there's something in his head and we can both work towards a common goal.
Interesting, yeah. I mean, let's talk about old and new films now and the fights in them, because one thing that I noticed, I'm not an expert in fighting, but one thing I noticed was the speed of cuts. They used to be a lot slower. So here's a clip from Fist of Fury, where it's a wide single shot and showing him connect with all these people in quite a long shot, like 8-second shot. And then cut away, but then when you cut back, again, it's the same thing, so wide, long shot. Comparing that with Bourne Identity. Quick. Why, now, so I was sort of researching this a little bit while I was doing these questions, and is there a reason why they're getting faster?
The 90s.
Yeah.
In the 90s, it was, when you wanted to make a film, you attached an A-list name to it. It didn't matter if they were a completely wrong person for the job, you had to have a name.
Right.
And so you saw these fight scenes where people with no skill at all were supposed to be the action superhero, and the cameras are kind of swirling around and moving and cut, because you had to try and hide the fact that your actor didn't have a clue what they were doing.
Right.
Jackie Chan said it best, if you've got a good fight and you've got good fighters, pull the camera back and show it. So what you saw with the Bruce Lee thing, you saw one of the best fighters in the world kicking the crap out of a bunch of other really good fighters.
Yeah. Well, Jackie Chan was in that as well. I saw on the YouTube comments it said that he's behind him in one of the shots as well.
When you've got that level of skill and you can do that, if you watch any of Tony Jaa's films, his fight scenes.
What films has he done?
Oh, Ong Bak is I think the best of his films, one of the earliest. Actually, if you take the time and go through Ong Bak, there'll be clips where they're doing a chase and there'll be a shot of an underpass, and you'll see written on the underpass is, "Hey Spielberg, give me some money, look what I did with none." But in his fight scenes, because he's a supremely well-trained martial artist, and he trained his fight team himself, they do wild stunts. But they do these long scenes, cuts, because they can, because everyone really knows what they're doing.
Right.
So when I see cut in a fight scene, what that says to me is that they've got at least one really inexperienced fighter in there, probably for their name.
Right. Yeah.
And they just couldn't do a longer cut because it looked terrible.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I thought might be the case, actually, that, you see these behind the scenes of some modern films where they go through like this boot camp, but it's only like an 8-week boot camp. But obviously 8 weeks is very different to, 8 years of training. And I was thinking, is that the reason? And obviously, no matter how much training you do, even, in the scope of a film where you only have, a few weeks, a few months before you start shooting, it's not comparable necessarily to Bruce Lee, who spends decades.
Keanu Reeves spent hundreds of hours on gun ranges working with specialist gunfighters, special forces, police, learning everything they do with guns, how to handle a gun, how to run with it, fight with it, eat his breakfast with it. So when you see him in the John Wick film, he's actually doing real gun stuff because he learned how to do it properly, and then spent hundreds of hours, so it became muscle memory. So you see him with a gun, when you see him actually doing, he looks natural. Yeah,
I mean, sort of Keanu Reeves is kind of, in some ways, more similar to Bruce Lee in the sense that obviously he did The Matrix, which required a lot of martial arts work, and then, decades later, he's doing John Wick. So it's sort of like he's already had that long period of time. Well, even Tom Cruise, you could say that he's a bit more like Bruce Lee in the sense of he's spent decades doing his own stunts.
Short and angry.
But you know what I mean? He's doing like stunts for decades.
Yeah, he's an actual pilot. He's got a bunch of different piloting licenses. He does. So, hats off to him for that.
Yeah. But when you have that level, when you have those years of experience versus, like with a film, somebody might be scheduled to do 3 a year, and you only have like 8 weeks, 12 weeks to learn the moves for that film, and then you're off to do a drama.
There's certain things, like if I was making a movie about painting, anyone in this room could be the artist in the film, because you've just got to hold a brush. Someone else can do the actual painting. You've just got to be shown with a brush a few times, maybe take your shirt off. Excellent, that's all we want from the film. But when it's something like fighting, especially if you're using a weapon like a sword, there needs to be much more time and much more commitment, because there are actors who've been on stage or on film using swords for decades and still barely know which end to hold on to. Sean Bean, looking at you.
Right.
He's the worst swordsman I've ever seen in my life.
Right.
But he's been holding swords on screen for 30 years. But he clearly, unlike Keanu Reeves, he hasn't committed to it. It's just a thing he did while he was acting, as opposed to a thing he made part of his life.
Right, interesting. There was a bit in Black Mirror, one of the latest series, where she's an actor in the present day, but then is, through technology, transported to this old black and white film. And then there's a bit, so she has to relive the events of the film. She goes to play a piano, which happens in the film, and then she just plays chopsticks and just sort of messes it up because she just says, oh, well, people dub over it when she does films, because she doesn't actually know how to play the piano. And in the same way here, you sort of...
Interestingly, if you go back to
you can't fake it in some ways.
The classics of the 50s, Basil Rathbone and... God, who was the guy who was always fighting? There was a few of these... they were always playing pirates or dashing swordsmen of one sort or another.
Okay.
They were actually Olympic level fencers. And what would quite often happen is, because they worked with the same director, the director would just throw them swords. You go, right, here's the sword scene. You're going to fight up the stairs, across there, down there. And
they knew how to, right?
But because they were actual swordsmen, it would look fantastic. There's a wonderful scene where one of the actors almost punched the director in the face because there's his opponent is supposed to swing a sword at him. He ducks. What he doesn't know is that his opponent's got a sharp. And he's going to cut through some candles that are behind him. So, they do the thing, he ducks, the swing goes through, he turns around and sees the candles are cut, and he goes storming across and picks the director up, because his opponent had a sharp.
Right.
If he'd been hit with it...
Okay.
Because even with blunts, even with rehearsals, you do get knocked sometimes. And if you get hit with a sharp, especially if you're not... Because you treat a sharp with a different level of respect.
Right.
Because you know it's a sharp weapon. And you'll do things with blunt swords, just bat them out of the way. If something's going wrong in a fight scene, you'll just bat it out of the way and go, let's restart.
Yeah.
If you do that with a sharp, you'll lose a finger.
Right. Is it different with guns in the sense of, I mean, obviously you've got the safety aspect of it, but in some ways, is it easier than using swords? Because obviously all you have to do is point it.
Yes. Well, yes and no. It's easier to train people to fake using a gun.
Yeah.
But there are a lot more people around who've used guns.
Right.
So when someone's bad at it, it's much more easy to notice. It's much more regularly noticed.
Yeah.
They think how many people have been through the military or one sort of service or another and are in the viewing public now and are on the internet.
Well, the big one is the trigger finger, where people put it around, which it should be on the, that's the only one I know in terms of like what people mess up most frequently.
There are lots of it's always the little things.
Yeah.
It's like when someone's wearing a sword belt as part of a costume and they don't know how to control the sword, just using their hip.
Right.
And they've got to have a hand on the sword. Now, don't worry, when you've got a sword belt on, it's just a comfortable place to rest your arm.
Yeah.
It feels very natural when you do it. But after your sort of 300th hour of wearing a sword belt, you get used to where the sword is behind you. So you get used to that space. Yeah. You see someone who's not used to it and they're knocking off things. And that goes back to what we were saying about the Mandalorian earlier. He hadn't had his costume for more than an hour when they started shooting, very clearly, because he wasn't used to wearing it. And this armour that's supposed to be, his skin, doesn't fit him properly. Or go to a fight scene. Did you watch Ashoka?
I haven't, no.
Yeah, you haven't missed much. At the beginning of it, she's supposed to be this double super ninja. She's swinging her lightsaber around like it's a steel bar. There's no grace. By the end of it, you get some of the best choreography I've seen in years, in brilliant fight scenes. Yeah. But that should have been where it started. That's the level of rehearsal I want to see before you start primary shooting. Okay. And I think especially if you've got Disney money, budgets, you can start rehearsals in time to get the fighting styles down, to get people used to their costumes, used to their armour, used to their weapons. So when you start shooting, you can get something magnificent right from the start. Yeah. Whereas with this, it was just laziness. They didn't want to start a week early. They didn't have her fighting style down. No. Because by the end of it, she has a very particular style of fighting. It's clearly hers, and they've clearly worked her hard during the weeks they shot the show. Because by the end of the show, she's absolutely savage. She's fighting the big bad evil guy, and it's a brilliant, brilliant fight scene. Yeah. Which should have been right from the start. Do
you think audiences' expectations have changed for fights over time? What are the expectations now, would you say?
There has become a trend in filmmaking where all they want is the next big stunt and the next explosion, and they sacrifice storytelling for it. Right. And it's lazy and it's unnecessary, and unfortunately it's what audiences have gotten used to. So where you'd see one fight scene that would last a couple of minutes back in, say, the 90s, now you've got 7 fight scenes and they each last 4 or 5 minutes because the audience demands it. People take impossible amounts of damage in these fights. They get beaten with steel rods and stabbed with knives and blown up, and somehow are still driving a car 5 minutes later. You hit me with a steel pipe, I need 3 weeks to lie down, thank you very much. I think audiences have gotten used to expecting bigger, flashier fight scenes with less substance.
Oh, what do you mean by substance?
I keep saying steel pipe.
More steel pipes, fewer steel pipes?
In, say, 95, if we're in a movie fight and I hit you in the head with a wrench, you're dead. In Daredevil, which has just come out, he repeatedly hits people in the head with steel bars.
Non-superheroes.
Just regular hench people. Yeah. He's got an extendable baton. If I hit you in the head with that, especially because he is superpowered, he does have extra strength. If he hits you in the head with that repeatedly, that's skull fractures and the hospital time. Not hopping up again to carry on the fight. And I think that level of realism's kind of been lost along the way. Yeah. It just seems everyone's superpowered now because they can take so much damage and then just hop up and carry on.
Move out, search the perimeter. I can't believe I'm saying this. There's a monster in there, and I think that this sword has something to do with a legend to destroy it.
Every legend ends, Pete. Might as well be today.